I, female, 28, still can't believe what my parents have done. I mean, I can believe it because the evidence is literally right in front of me, but also I just can't. I don't even know where to start with this whole mess. So my grandmother, Martha, passed away about 14 months ago. She was basically my second mom growing up. My parents, Donald, male 56, and Heidi, female 54, were always super busy with their careers, dad in finance, mom in real estate. So I spent like every weekend and most summers with my grandparents. Martha was the best person I've ever known. She taught me how to bake using recipes from the 1950s that she kept in a metal recipe box. I still have it, and oh my frickin' God, I'm tearing up just typing this. She would tell me stories about meeting my grandpa Philip, male 82, during World War II at a USO dance. Anyway, the point is, I was super close with her. And Martha had this vintage ring from the 1930s, 2-carat diamond in a really intricate platinum setting. It had been in the family for 3 generations and was worth around $35,000 according to some insurance thing they had done a few years back. But honestly, I never cared about the money part. It was all about it being Martha's ring, you know? So Martha had always promised me I would get her ring for my wedding day. Like, she told me this since I was a little girl. We even tried it on once when I was in high school, and she said she was keeping it safe for me. After she passed, my parents said they would keep the ring until my wedding to Zach, male, 30, my boyfriend of 6 years. Oh, and side note, Zach proposed at this lake where Martha and Philip used to take me fishing when I was little. I literally could not stop crying thinking about how Martha wouldn't be at the wedding. But at least I'd have her ring, right? My parents seemed really into the whole caretaker of the ring thing. Like my mom would mention it all the time and talk about how special it would be when I finally got to wear it. I thought they were just being sweet and carrying on Martha's wishes, but nope. Turns out they had other plans. So a week before our wedding, during our rehearsal dinner, my mom makes this big show of presenting me with Martha's ring. My mom got everyone's attention and started going on about Martha's legacy and family traditions. Then she gave me this small velvet box with this dramatic flourish. I opened the box and something immediately felt off. Like, I can't explain it exactly, but the weight was different, and the stone didn't catch the light the way I remembered Martha's ring doing. But I was so emotional, and everyone was staring at me and taking pictures, so I just put it on and thanked my parents. My dad made a toast about continuing the family legacy. That seems so gross to me now that I know what they did. Zach noticed something was wrong and asked if I was okay, and I just lied and said I was emotional about the wedding. I didn't want to make a scene or accuse my parents of anything without being sure. After the wedding, which was beautiful despite all this mess happening in my head, I took the ring to get appraised. Turns out it's a cubic zirconia fake worth maybe $50. $50. I didn't wear it for the wedding, told everyone it needed sizing, and wore a bracelet Martha had given me instead. My cousin Lillian, female, 32, actually commented during the reception that the ring looked different than she remembered from seeing it on Martha's finger, but I brushed it off at the time because I didn't want to deal with it during my wedding. Wish I'd listened to her. I was completely devastated, like physically sick to my stomach. But I decided to wait until after the honeymoon to confront my parents because I didn't want to ruin the trip Zach had planned. Then 2 weeks after we got back, I was at my parents' house for a family dinner. My mom asked me to check a recipe someone had texted her while she was in the bathroom. When I picked up her phone, which was unlocked, I saw a notification preview from my dad that said, "Scamming the idiot," and I just froze. I know I shouldn't have snooped, but I clicked on it. And there it was, a whole conversation between my parents about how they had sold Martha's real ring for $32,000 and replaced it with a fake. They were literally laughing about tricking me. My own parents called me an idiot and were joking about how I didn't even notice. I took screenshots of everything, all the texts, including where they talked about selling it to some jeweler in another city and what they spent the money on, a vacation to Europe and some designer stuff for my mom. I haven't confronted them yet. I'm still really upset. But I've been thinking about showing these messages to my grandpa Philip. He controls most of the family wealth and has been really depressed since Martha died. I know this would really hurt him to learn what they did with Martha's ring. But also, shouldn't he know what kind of people his son and daughter-in-law really are? I don't want to cause a huge family fight. Okay, maybe part of me does want to blow everything up. I'm just so angry. But this feels like such a massive betrayal. They sold something priceless to me for their own gain and then laughed about tricking me. Am I wrong to consider showing these texts to my grandfather? I'm worried about his health since he's 82 and already depressed. But I also feel like he deserves to know the truth about what happened to Martha's ring. Edit. Some people are asking why I care so much about an expensive ring when I said I don't care about material things. Look, I know it sounds contradictory, but it's not about the money value at all. It's about it being Martha's ring that she specifically wanted me to have. It could have been worth $5 and I would still be devastated that they sold it. The monetary value only matters because it shows how much my parents profited from selling a family ring that wasn't even theirs to sell. Edit 2. To the people asking why I didn't say something when I first noticed the ring looked off, I honestly doubted myself. I thought maybe I was just remembering it wrong or being emotional because of the wedding. And I didn't want to accuse my parents of something so horrible without being 100% sure. Trust me, I've been kicking myself for not speaking up sooner. Edit 3. Yes, I've told Zach everything. He's furious, but is letting me decide how to handle it since it's my family. And no, I haven't confronted my parents yet because I'm still trying to figure out the best approach. Part of me wants to go scorched earth, and part of me is scared of the fallout. Now for the first update. So first, thanks to everyone who commented on my last post. After talking it through with Zach for like 3 straight nights, I finally decided to show my grandpa Philip everything. A bunch of you said I should do this in the comments, and Zach kept saying that Philip deserved to know what happened to Martha's ring, especially since it was his wife's ring that my parents sold behind everyone's back. So last Sunday, Zach and I drove out to Philip's house in the suburbs. I noticed Martha's garden was getting overgrown. I had to sit in the car for a few minutes crying before I could even go inside. Zach just held my hand and didn't say anything. He's seriously the best. The house is exactly the same as when Martha was alive. Philip still puts out 2 coffee cups each morning out of habit. They were married for like 56 years, so I can't even imagine what he's going through. We sat down in the living room and I was so nervous I felt like I was going to throw up. I mean, how do you tell an 82-year-old man that his son and daughter-in-law basically stole and sold his dead wife's ring? I started by asking if he remembered Martha's promise to give me her ring. He said he did and asked if something was wrong with the ring. So I took a deep breath and handed him my phone with the screenshots of my parents' text. He was really quiet. He put on his reading glasses and slowly scrolled through all the texts, and his face got paler and paler. He asked if I was certain these were from Donald and Heidi. I showed him the contact info and explained how I found the texts when my mom asked me to check a message. Then he asked when I discovered the ring was fake, so I told him about getting it appraised after the wedding and showed him the jeweler's report I'd brought with me. Then something really unexpected happened. Philip went to his study and came back with Martha's leather journal. He showed me an entry where Martha had written about her ring and stated that it should go to me after she passed. She had written this just a few months before she died. Philip's hand started shaking as he read Martha's words. Then he asked if I could send him copies of all the evidence. I offered to help him save the screenshots, but instead, he picked up his phone and called his lawyer, Fred. Philip told Fred he needed to make changes to his will regarding Donald and Heidi. Fred tried to schedule something for later in the week, but Philip said he wanted to do it that day. That's when I learned my parents have been lying about money problems for years. They told Philip they were struggling with medical bills and investment losses, and he's been giving them a lot of financial support. Meanwhile, they've actually just been living beyond their means to keep up with their fancy friends. It suddenly made sense why my mom had been bragging about her bargain Gucci handbag that still cost $2,200 while telling me they couldn't contribute anything to my wedding. They've been playing the poor us card with Philip while spending lavishly on themselves. Philip was furious. He told Fred that he wanted Donald and Heidi removed from his will completely, but he wanted to make sure that me and my cousins would still be taken care of. Fred promised to draft the changes immediately. I feel terrible about causing all this family drama, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad my parents are finally facing consequences for their action. Is that horrible of me? I don't know anymore. The real shit hit the fan 2 days later. I was home with Zach having dinner when someone started pounding on our apartment door. We could hear my mom screaming through the door that I had ruined everything, while my dad was demanding to be let in. Zach went to open the door. I was literally frozen at the dinner table, but he stood in the doorway, so they couldn't just barge in. My mom immediately started accusing me of manipulating a senile old man for money. My dad tried to claim it was just a joke that they were planning to reveal later, and my mom kept saying I was being materialistic over just a ring after they sold it for $32. My dad then threatened that I would regret choosing Philip over my own parents. My mom kept switching between sobbing dramatically and then threatening to cut me off from the family. Lol, as if they haven't been cut off. I didn't even say much during this whole thing. I just forwarded them the screenshots of their own texts right then and there so they could see that I had receipts. Zach finally told them they needed to leave before he called building security. That's when my dad called me an ungrateful little bitch and stormed off. My mom stayed behind for a minute to tell me that I had destroyed the family for a stupid ring before finally leaving. When my mom was crying, for a split second I wondered if maybe I'd been too harsh. But Zach reminded me that they planned this whole scheme, then laughed about tricking me and called me an idiot in their texts. It wasn't a mistake or a misunderstanding. It was calculated. I've gone no contact with both of them while I figure out what to do next. They've been calling everyone in the family claiming I made the whole thing up or twisted what happened. My cousin Lillian has totally taken my side after seeing the texts, but a bunch of my aunts and uncles think I'm exaggerating or that I misunderstood a harmless prank. Like, in what world is selling a dead woman's ring and replacing it with a fake a prank? It's been really hard to focus at work through all this. I'm an elementary school teacher, and normally I can leave personal stuff at the door, but it's been tough trying to be enthusiastic about teaching fractions when I'm dealing with this level of betrayal from my own parents. My students can totally tell something's wrong, even though I'm trying to hide it. One of them actually gave me a drawing yesterday to make me less sad, which made me cry in the supply closet for like 10 minutes. Anyway, Philip called me yesterday and asked if I could come by again this weekend. He said he needs my help with something important, but wouldn't tell me exactly what. Just that it might bring me some closure about Martha's ring. I have no idea what he's planning, but I'm seeing him on Saturday. Edit. Several people have asked if my parents have a gambling problem or addiction issues that might explain their behavior. Not that I know of, unless you count my mom's shopping addiction. They've always been materialistic and status-conscious people, but I never thought they'd go this far. They're the type who care a lot about what their country club friends think of them. Edit 2. To those saying I should press charges for theft, I've thought about it, but the ring technically belonged to my parents after Martha passed. There was no specific bequest in her will about the ring, just her personal promise to me and the journal entry. Also, I really don't want to put Philip through a criminal case against his own son. He's already devastated enough. Edit 3. Thanks for all the supportive comments. To answer those asking about Philip's health, he seems physically okay despite his age, but emotionally he's been struggling since Martha died. This situation has definitely given him something else to focus on, but I'm worried about the stress affecting him. And no, he's definitely not senile like my mom tried to claim. He's sharp as a tack. Now for the second update. So, a lot has happened since my last post. Sorry I didn't update sooner, but I needed some time to process everything. And also, I've been trying not to spend too much time on my phone because this whole situation still makes me feel sick whenever I think about it. So, after that big fight with my parents, when they showed up screaming at our apartment, there was like 3 weeks of total silence from them. I was honestly kind of relieved because I needed space to think, and Zach and I were just trying to get back to normal life. I went back to teaching, started therapy, as many of you suggested, and was visiting Grandpa Philip every weekend. Philip had been acting kind of secretive, always on the phone with Fred, his lawyer, and sometimes would end calls when I walked into the room. I figured he was just gathering financial evidence for the will changes or something, maybe trying to protect me from more stress. I appreciated that he seemed to be handling everything and not putting more stress on me. Anyway, this was all fine until my parents suddenly showed up at our apartment on a Sunday afternoon. I had just finished baking Martha's banana bread recipe, and then the doorbell rang, and it was them. I literally almost dropped the loaf pan when I saw them through the peephole. My mom was holding a plate of chocolate chip cookies, which is so weird because I've always preferred snickerdoodles, and Martha used to make them for me all the time. Like, my mom doesn't even know my favorite cookie after 28 years. This small detail just hit me so hard in that moment. They looked different, not like angry and entitled like last time. More like subdued. My dad wasn't wearing his usual fancy watch, and my mom's hair wasn't perfectly styled like normal. They asked if they could come in to talk, and I just stood there for a second before letting them in. I mean, part of me wanted to slam the door in their faces, but I don't know. I guess I was curious what they'd say. And before anyone asks, yes, Zach was home. He was in the living room and immediately came over when he heard their voices. He didn't say anything, but just stood near me the whole time, which honestly made me feel so much safer. My mom put the cookies down and started with a super fake apology about the misunderstanding, while my dad nodded along, looking all serious. They both kept talking about needing to heal as a family, but never actually admitted what they did. They kept using vague terms like the situation and recent events, without ever acknowledging they sold Martha's ring and replaced it with a fake. I just stood there letting them talk and noticed they kept glancing at each other as if checking they were saying the right things. My mom suggested we all move forward as a family, and then my dad brought up Philip, saying something about how at his age, health can decline so rapidly with this fake, concerned look. Then my mom tried to casually ask if I'd spoken to Philip recently or if he'd mentioned anything about family matters, and that's when it clicked for me. I just straight up asked them if they were only here because of the will. My dad got all defensive, saying it wasn't about money but about family. His face turned really red when he said this, which is always his tell when he's lying. And then my mom started crying, like actual tears. I don't know if they were real or not, saying they were losing everything and didn't deserve such severe punishment for one mistake. Then my dad just dropped the act completely and told me I needed to fix things with Philip and that I was tearing the family apart over a stupid ring. And I couldn't believe they were still trying to manipulate me. They kept switching tactics too. First guilt, saying I owed them after everything they'd done for me. Then anger, calling me selfish. Then minimizing, saying it was just a ring and no one got hurt. Then lying, claiming I was remembering things wrong and they never called me an idiot. I let them go on for a while, watching them dig themselves deeper and deeper. Honestly, part of me was kind of fascinated by how transparent they were being. Like they couldn't even hide their true motives for 15 minutes. Finally, I'd had enough. I told them to wait there and walked to my office. I could hear my dad asking Zach, "What's this nonsense about?" while my mom had suddenly stopped crying. Shocker. I came back with this thick manila folder I'd prepared just in case they ever showed up. It was labeled Martha's Ring in big letters. My dad rolled his eyes, but my mom looked nervous. I started pulling out documents one by one. First, a statement from the jewelry store confirming they bought an antique diamond ring from Donald and Heidi Harrison on March 12th for $32,000. My dad immediately claimed it was fake news. He literally used those words. But he'd gone pale. Then I pulled out bank records showing transfers matching the exact amount, followed by charges for first-class tickets to Europe, a $4,800 stay at some fancy hotel in Paris, and receipts for my mom's shopping spree at Chanel and other designer stores. My mom had gone completely silent by this point, but the big surprise came next. I reached into the folder and pulled out a small worn velvet box. The original box, with the actual ring inside. You should have seen their faces. Total shock. I explained that Philip hadn't just been working with his lawyer. He'd hired a private investigator to track down Martha's ring. The jeweler had already sold it to another buyer, but Philip offered them an additional $10,000 on top of their purchase price to get it back. $10,000 extra because of what my parents did. My dad looked like he was going to pass out. My mom started sobbing for real this time. But I wasn't done. I pulled out one final item, a letter from Martha that Philip had found in her personal effects. I read it to them. The letter said Martha wanted me to have her diamond ring, which she had promised me since I was little. She wrote that she wanted me to have it on my wedding day and that I was the only one who truly appreciated it. I can't even describe what it felt like to read those words. I was crying by the end of it. My dad suddenly stood up, knocking over a lamp in the process. He was furious, like scary furious. My mom was begging me not to destroy their lives over a mistake. Zach finally spoke up and told them they needed to leave. My dad pointed at me and threatened that they would challenge the will and make everyone's life difficult. I just looked him in the eye and told him Grandpa Philip's lawyers would love to see them try. After they left, I felt, I don't know, like I'd won, but also like I'd lost something. Like I wanted to fix things with my parents, even though my actions showed I was more focused on getting justice, to be honest. It's weird, but when my dad was yelling, I could smell his cologne, the same one he's worn my whole life, and it made me feel sick instead of nostalgic. That's when I realized how completely my perception of them had changed. So here's where things stand now. My parents hired some lawyer to contest the will, but it's not going well for them. Philip's lawyers had everything documented. Most of the family is on my side after seeing the evidence, though a few relatives, mostly my dad's siblings, keep saying I should forgive and forget for the sake of family. Yeah, right. I've established some pretty strict boundaries. I'll see them at major family holidays, but only in group settings with other family members present. My mom keeps sending little gifts and cards, which Zach thinks is manipulation, but part of me wonders if she's genuinely sorry. I don't know. The best part of this whole awful situation is that Philip and I have gotten so much closer. He's been sharing stories about Martha that I never knew, like how she turned down a proposal from some rich doctor to be with him when he was just a poor soldier. Last month, he arranged for Zach and me to have a private vow renewal ceremony. I finally got to wear the real ring. I cried through the whole thing, happy tears this time. This whole experience has taught me a lot about family. Just because someone is related to you doesn't make them family. The most painful part is knowing that my parents cared more about money than my happiness. But when I look at Martha's ring now, I remember that real love can't be sold or replaced with a fake. Edit. To those asking if I'm being too harsh on my parents, maybe. But they haven't actually apologized for what they did just for getting caught. There's a difference. Someone asked what Martha's banana bread recipe is. I might share it in the comments if people are interested. It has a secret ingredient that makes it special. Hint, it's not just cinnamon.